Hello, Dr. Dyke Drummond here at the home of thehappymd.com in beautiful Seattle, Washington. Welcome to the latest episode of the Physicians on Purpose podcast. Tools so you can recognize and prevent your own burnout. Stories of burnout put to its highest and best use, and wellness leadership strategies. Everything you need to be a physician on purpose. Hello again, Dr. Dyke Drummond at our home in beautiful Seattle, Washington of thehappymd.com. And this is the latest edition of the Physicians on Purpose podcast. It's our first podcast of 2024. Wahoo for the year ahead. And I have a special guest here. I'm really excited, Dr. Robyn Tiger, MD. And she's going to talk to us today about how you create positive change in your life on multiple different levels and her whole person approach to physician well-being. Robyn, welcome to the show.
Wahoo!
Wahoo! Yeah.
I'm excited to be here, kicking off 2024 with you and everyone listening. Amazing.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about 2024. We won't necessarily go into that on this Wahoo first broadcast of the year, but let's start out on a positive note, in a defensive stance, ready to deal with all this stuff that's going to come your way this year, because a whole bunch came last year, but last year was just the prequel. And let's talk about making positive change. Let's talk about creating positive change in your life. And you also focus on a lot on the physical aspects too. I can say that for me, I usually focus on the vocational aspects, how to take your job out of the running for the most stressful thing in your life. You are certified though in the big L,
Lifestyle medicine.
Lifestyle medicine and some other things. So let's talk about when you meet a client, a typical client, talk about how you begin to approach their well-being and how you help them create a process of their own for positive change.
Yeah, well, first, maybe we should kind of tell everybody what lifestyle medicine is a little bit,
Yeah,
because they
go
may
for
not
it.
know what that is, right? And so, for anyone listening who doesn't know, lifestyle medicine is one of the newer board specialties in medicine. I have the honor and privilege of serving as lead faculty and subject matter expert in stress management for the American College of Lifestyle
Oh,
Medicine. And
wow.
yeah, it was a couple of years in the making of the new board review manual. It was published this past spring, and very excited that thousands of docs were able to utilize that information to study for the boards they just took. Lots of happy campers.
So
So,
hang on a second. You wrote the chapter and they got tested on what you wrote?
yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, the section on emotional mental health and well-being was my section that I helped co-author in the new manual. And it was actually really lovely during our annual conference in November. And of course, also through social media, several docs reached out and said, thank you. Thank you for being the calm in the storm of my studies. When I got to your video and I heard your voice, it just calmed me
Right
down
on.
so much. And that section was so calming. So it's really kind of really lovely to be able to help people feel calm while they're studying for their boards in that way. But yes, I was really privileged and honored to hold that position.
Right on.
So
Congratulations.
thank you, thanks, and back to lifestyle medicine. So like when we think about traditional medicine, we think about a very disease oriented, a disease management kind of practice where patient comes in with something and we're managing that thing. So somebody comes in with elevated blood sugar and they're diabetic and we're giving them meds for that. Somebody comes in with elevated blood pressure and they're hypertensive, we're giving them meds for that, and so on. And what our research has shown us over the years is that we can actually prevent, reverse, and sometimes treat symptoms, illnesses, and diseases by focusing on 6 key pillars of behavior, of lifestyle. And those are stress management, healthful nutrition, sleep, exercise, social connection, and risky substances, slash, I like to call them escapes, things that we escape from. And that all 6 of those pillars are like spokes on a wheel, and the wheel doesn't work unless we actually focus on all of them. And all of those spokes need to be really healthy and gain attention so that they can allow you to be the healthiest, happiest person that you are, that you want to be, and reverse anything that's going on. And so the medical literature's been amazing being able to show back with Dean Ornish's work, and then we have Esselstyn's work and so on moving forward. And of course, Dr. Campbell's work, that we focus on these behavior changes and people get better, or they reverse or actually prevent getting sick, which 80% of chronic disease in our country, in the world, is from lack of focus on these behavior changes: hypertension, diabetes, stroke, heart disease, and cancer, and so on. So this is so exciting because traditional medicine is, let's just kind of manage what's going on, and lifestyle medicine says, hey, let's prevent and reverse what's going on. So that's what got me so excited about this field of medicine, in that we can really make such a difference at the opposite end of the spectrum.
I feel my telomeres lengthening just in our conversation.
Yeah, so that's actually an amazing, amazing benefit. So research shows that when you focus on these six key pillars, you actually do lengthen your telomeres. And did you ever have yours checked?
No.
I did.
Oh, really?
I did. I actually did. So after studying this work for decades and really being curious, for those of you listening, a reminder about your telomeres is that they are the protective ends of your chromosomes. They're likened to the little plastic ends of shoelaces called aglets, for those of you who like to do word games, right? And so when those aglets, those plastic pieces of your shoelaces, break and fall off, what happens? Your shoelace frays and you need to get a new one. Well, with your chromosomes, the length of your telomere actually determines your longevity. It tells you how long you're going to live. And that's because they represent your life. And over time, our telomeres naturally shorten. But there are certain things that make them shorten more quickly. And a big one is stress and illness, right? And so, what we want to do is we want to prevent them from prematurely shortening. And the excellent news is we can actually make them grow. We can actually put those nucleotides back on the ends of our chromosomes and lengthen them. So, you have your chronologic age. Someone says to you, "How old are you?" And you come up with a number. And then you
65.
have 65. And then you have your cellular age. That's how old you are actually on the inside at the cellular level. And those numbers aren't necessarily the same.
Right.
Your inside age can be equal to, more than, or less than.
Yep.
And so I had mine tested. I'm currently 58, and I had them tested when I was 52, and it came back as 36, which means that my cellular age is 36 at the age of chronologically 52. So what's the math there? I was like 16 years younger
Wear your seatbelt.
at the cellular level. Yeah, than the chronologic level. So that's also super exciting, that not only can you feel better, but you actually change your genetics, you change your longevity, you actually can add years onto your life by taking care of yourself in certain ways.
Yeah, and I've heard it expressed as lifespan versus health span as well, right?
Yes,
So
exactly.
so hit
So,
those
yeah.
6 points again. We want to hear them one more
Yeah.
time,
Okay. So, in no particular order,
right?
of course, as a stress free MD, I'm putting stress management first. But we have stress management, healthful nutrition, exercise, sleep, social connection, and risky substances slash escapes.
Okay, great. How about this one? Where does a
Yeah.
medical career for a physician fit in the risky piece?
No, the risky piece is escaping, drinking, doing
Gotcha,
drugs,
gotcha.
um, internet shopping, gambling, overworking, over anything, doing running away from anything, anything that you're doing to escape from whatever's currently happening in your life.
Gotcha. So
Yeah.
I would envision this as lifestyle. Let's just envision this. I'll do one of my
Mhm.
gastronomic metaphors.
Okay.
Envision a big pot of soup and all those 6 ingredients are in there.
Yeah.
It's on a stove.
Hmm.
If I'm a doctor, there's a lot of heat under this soup and it's boiling
Mm,
because of the
mm,
stress. and the sleep
Mhm.
deprivation
Mhm.
and all the stuff that goes along with me being a doctor. How do you get doctors to focus on these non-job oriented factors? At least they appear to
Mhm.
me superficially to be not particularly oriented to the job, and the
Mhm.
job is a source of stress that's the heat under the pot. How do you
Mhm.
get doctors? You mean I got to exercise too? I mean, how do you deal with those kind of objections, right?
Yeah. So first of all, when the student's ready, when the the
Right,
teacher appears, right?
right.
And so back to original question is, people need to want to make changes in their life.
Mhm.
So once they recognize that, hey, I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't feel good. I don't feel good at work. I don't love my job. I I'm screaming at my kids. My marriage is on the rocks. Nothing brings me joy anymore. I'm living in a sea of anhedonia, right? And so it's that individual that wants help. And people frequently say like, "Oh, the healthcare system is broken. Don't tell me to do these things. It's the healthcare system's problem. I'm not the problem." And I say, "You're right." And they look at me like, "What?" And I say, "You're right. The healthcare system does have so many problems right now. You can call it broken, you can call it whatever you want, but there are two factors here. There's the healthcare system and then there's the human. And although you can't control what's going on necessarily at your workplace, there are people working really hard to try and fix a lot of the issues there. The only thing you can control is yourself and your own health and your own well-being.
Yep.
And those are the individuals that I love to support.
Well, and those are the discussions that I've seen develop over time amongst us that are well-being and burnout prevention coaches.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time when everybody focused on the resilience of the doctor. Doctors
Mm-hmm.
are resilient by sheer fact that we survived the residency education process. Our
Mm-hmm.
resilience is second to none. Any manager that questions the resilience of a physician should be slapped silly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the pendulum has swung to say, no, it's moral injury. It's all the workplace. Doctors are perfect just the way they are. Don't teach me to meditate. Don't have me exercise. Don't have me take responsibility for anything. And actually, like most things, the answer is in the middle. Yes, and yes, there are stressors built into the system that we can address organizationally. And yes, you must take responsibility for the things you can do today to make yourself feel better today.
Mm-hmm.
And if you point at the system and say, it's the system, I'm being oppressed, like a Monty Python movie, right? I'm being oppressed, right? You're playing the victim. So stop it. What
Mm-hmm.
can you do? Robyn's going to tell us some of the things you can do.
Yes, you mentioned victim, and we know what it's like to feel like the victim. And I always like to say that in every situation, you are either the victim or the victor. And so, how do you get to be the victor? That's when you take charge of your life. And that's when you say, hey, what can I do to make myself healthier and happier now? And like you mentioned, health span versus lifespan, how can I lengthen my health span to get closer, if not to match my lifespan? So how am I investing in myself now so that I can run around and chase my grandchildren someday and feel really, really good? Yeah.
And any time that the three signs that you're playing the victim are blame, justify, complain without changing your behavior,
Mm.
because you always have agency, with very rare exceptions when you're actually being victimized by somebody. But that's not very common in our workplaces.
Yeah, that's so good. And I always come back to something Einstein said. He said, a problem cannot be solved unless unless you change the level of consciousness. So if you are just doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you're not doing anything else to change it, right? Nothing's going to get better. So we do need to step up and we do need to get in the driver's seat and we do need to be proactive for ourselves and our own health and well-being, independent of all the junk that we're dealing with at work, right? Because that's not going to go away and it may not ever change in my lifetime, in your lifetime. But the thing that can be changed is yourself and how you are with all of that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So back to the question about, well, what do we do about it? I usually, I have a little handout questionnaire. And I need to learn first, well, what's most important to you? First of all, where are you in those six pillars? What does your life look like with respect to your stress and your sleep, your connection, your nutrition, your exercise, your escapes, really getting to know the human to see what are they already doing okay or well, what are they not, or is none of it okay? And then prioritizing, what is most important and starting just with one thing at a time, right?
Mhm.
So we as doctors, we need to do everything 150% or nothing. And so therefore lots of time we do nothing. So working with lots of Navy SEALs and first responders and SWAT teams, something I learned is that 1% better every day. So I focus on that, just 1% better every day. And we just
Yep.
start by starting. We pick one thing and we start there.
Yeah,
And
that's one of the
yeah.
key lessons for my coaching practice too, is once you have a list of things that you want to change, please don't fall into the overachiever's trap of picking the biggest, hairiest, most audacious one.
Mhm,
It's like working out. You don't start with the biggest barbell in the rack. Let's
mhm.
pick an easy step, a low hanging piece of fruit, something we can knock right out of the park right now for a little difference and then celebrate it and go again.
Yeah, that's so good. Because we know our brains are doctor brains, right? And we
Right?
know how we
Triage.
think. We right. Yeah. So, and remembering that anything you do is more than you did before.
Right.
So it's only it can only be helpful. And research actually shows that doing something, a little bit more exercise, eating a little bit better, whatever it is, actually does improve your health. That's actually in the medical literature. So it doesn't have to be all or none. Anything you do is better than what you've done before or haven't done. And the thing that's really, really the important key element to make those changes effective is understanding behavior change and how to implement behavior change. And we come back to understanding where you are in the realm of behavior change. And so, starting first with the trans theoretical theory of behavior change and understanding if you're someone who's like not even contemplating doing anything, pre contemplation, contemplation, if you're familiar or not, readiness, action, and so on. And so, maintenance. And so, we need to find out first, like, well, where are you? Are you doing this thing because your spouse said, hey, you need to lose some weight? Your spouse said you got to stop drinking. Your spouse said you have to stop coming home screaming at me. Are you doing this because you're like, hey, like I really want to do this? So first it's figuring out where someone is in that, realm of behavior. And then tapping into, usually it's a 1 to 10. The question is, well, how confident are you that you can achieve this? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this to you? And so, what the literature shows is you need to be at least a 7 for these changes to actually be effective. If you're less than a 7, we got to do some coaching. We need to get around, like, well, what are the thoughts around that? Why aren't you at least a 7? Really poke some holes in where you are to get you to the point that you're at least a 7 or above. And then we can create some SMART goals around that, right? Getting really specific, measurable, attainable, relatable, relevant, and time bound. And then we implement. So actually, I've created this 5-step behavior changes, first using that trans theoretical theory, then focusing on confidence, focusing on importance, creating the SMART goal, and then implementing. And so many times, like, we want to do something and we're like, I'm just going to go do this thing. But we need to actually take a step back and figure out if we're even ready for that thing, if it's really important to us. So that homework needs to be done first before we even start to try and implement any changes.
Yep. And that trans theoretical model, if you're of
Hmm.
my age, my generation, we learned it as the stages of quitting smoking.
Oh,
Pre-contemplation,
yeah.
contemplation, planning, that kind of stuff. It was
Yeah.
just called the stages of I didn't know it was anything bigger than that until much later.
Mm.
Hey,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
just knock this nail all the way in about small changes making a big difference.
Mhm.
Let me tell you just a quick story.
Yeah.
I had a client and I said, well, what do you want to do between now and our next call? And she said, I want to meditate. I said, oh, okay. How often would you like to meditate? She said, every day. I knew we were in trouble right there. And but I saw her again in a couple of weeks and I said, how'd that meditation thing go? And she goes, I failed. And I said, I was suspicious. So I said, hang on a second. How many times did you meditate last week? She said, 5 times. So
Mm.
she went from 0 to 5 and considered it a failure because she set herself up to fail because she said she wanted to do it every day. Let me just ask you a question. How many times more than 0 is 5? It looks like this, by the way.
Right.
It's infinitely more. So
Yes.
here's just a quick tip. If you're ever wanting to do something you've never done and you set yourself a goal for every day, that's fine. But you win. For instance, if it's a week, 7 days, you win if you do 4 or more. Your goal is every day, that's fine, but you win a gold medal if you do 4 or more. Set yourself up for a goal that you can achieve, even if your intention is for it to be every day. And watch out for absolutes, right? They
Yeah,
just
so
trap you.
good.
And doctors are wired this way because we're overachievers. We want perfection in the A plus. The 4.0.
And 4.0 is not enough.
I know. And if you know you're a perfectionist, if again, you're of my generation, you're pissed off that people can get more than a 4.0. That's not right.
I remember those days. Yes. Yeah,
That's
so,
not
so
right.
good. Yeah. And that's why isn't it right?
Because I never got it. Real simple, right? It's all about
Yeah,
me.
yeah. Do you ever see the bunny? There's shirts that with a little bunny, it says it's all about me on it.
Oh,
Yeah, I
really?
think I
No.
think one of my kids used to have that shirt. Yes.
Well, and that's one of
Yeah.
the themes, right? It is all about
Mhm.
you. It is
Mhm.
about your intentions, what you will tolerate. One of the quotes I learned a long time ago is you don't get what you want in life, you get what you tolerate.
Mm.
So we're talking about getting to a point where you are stressed, upset, overwhelmed, and you choose to stop tolerating something less than optimal. And that's when you would potentially see a coach if you needed some support in those change efforts.
Yeah.
And you will look deep into the lifestyle medicine 6 pillars and find a place where people want to work. And that will be the place that they perhaps make their first change and learn how to be an agent of positive change for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Okay.
weave in, like so, I mean, I have a whole other set of skills that I brought into that is, having my own burnout story and
Right.
not knowing how to come out of that myself and finding ways to feel better. And it really led me to this umbrella of lifestyle medicine. But I started out really focusing on that stress piece when I recognized that was what was causing a lot of these what appear to be disconnected symptoms in my own self. And I have certifications in yoga therapy, in meditation, in life coaching, and then weaving all of that in under the um, the umbrella of lifestyle medicine. So it's just all really beautifully integrated, and working with people in all those levels, their body, their mind, their soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, um, the whole person.
Yeah, that's one of the things that breaks my heart. You think about the 3 symptoms of burnout.
Mm.
And in our model, I teach that they represent exhaustion of certain energy accounts. There's a physical energy account that goes below 0, you're exhausted physically. There is an emotional energy account goes below 0, compassion, fatigue, cynical, sarcastic. And then there's the spiritual energy account. When it goes below 0, you think, what's the use? I'm not making the difference. So when
Hmm.
we talk spiritual in my practice, it's about, are you making the difference that you wanted to make when you chose to be a doctor in the first place? Is there some purpose and some meaning in your work? If you lose that connection, it can be really, really disheartening,
Mm.
especially
Yeah.
if the conditions of the workplace are what separate you from that feeling.
Hmm. And it just spills over into your personal life in a
Yep.
really detrimental way.
Kick the dog.
Oh, yeah. The poor dog. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
So how can people reach you on the internet? What's your home website? That kind of stuff.
yeah, my website is www.stressfreemd.net. It's there where you'll find lots of information about what we've been talking about and more. I have a podcast called the Stress Free MD Podcast where I share short, actionable bites, 15 minutes or less in general, of how you can take action and be the victor and not the victim and feel better. There are programs on demand if you're someone who likes self paced content. There's one-on-one coaching. Um, yeah, lots of things, lots of ways. And I've got 4 free videos on the website to help you get started. They're each about 5 minutes because I know how busy you are. So if you'd like to tap into some of those, you can check them out as well.
Right on. And just to be clear, it was stressfreemd.net.
Net.
Net.
Yeah. Someone had the .com and I did not want to change
Yep.
my stress remedy. I really loved it. It came to me actually in a meditation. I was like, okay, we'll do the .net. It's all right. And it's worked out. It's
Right
worked out
on.
just great. And yeah, and they're seeing me for everything too. If you're a physician, nurse practitioner, nurse PA, for everything as well. So
Right on. What's
yeah.
one last thing you want to leave people with? Maybe a little brain tickler. If you're noticing this, you might want to do something about
If
it.
you're noticing that you're shutting yourself right now, and I say wipe that shut off. If
Right.
you're
Oh, there
noticing
you
that you're
go.
like, if you're noticing that you're like, I should know this. Like, I should know all of this. I should already be doing these things. I should have blah, blah, blah. Right? Should have cut a what up. I'm just here to share with you that you don't, you can't do what you don't know. Right? And you don't know what you don't know. And it's not your fault. It's not your fault and it's never too late. So the reason that you're not implementing these things is because you didn't know any of them. You weren't taught any of them. There's this gigantic education gap in our system. And so I'm inviting you right now to wipe that shut off and just get rid of it and have a clean slate and just take a step forward towards yourself now.
And I'll just add a little bit. I'll pile on just a little bit. Yeah, don't shit on yourself. And if you look just a little bit deeper under the concept of, wow, I really should do this, what's happening is you're realizing it is a choice that's available to you that you could make. And you're highly suspicious that it would make a difference if you did.
Hmm.
Let me just tell a quick story. 3 weeks ago, I had a stroke. I woke up in the middle of the night and I couldn't move my left side. Fortunately, my wife called 911 right away. I didn't know it was a stroke. I'm a doctor and you think, well, I would know if I was having a stroke. Well, I didn't. I thought somebody had sewn a seal flipper onto my left shoulder. She called 911. They whipped me into the hospital at 3:30 in the morning. And after a little bit of dipsy doodle and a CT scanner, they sucked a clot out of my middle cerebral artery. And I'm left with one overriding change in my awareness. Everything is miraculous. And it's later than you think. So my hope for you is that if you're thinking I should do something different, now's the time. It's later than you think. Get on it. Get
Ah,
on it.
goosebumps.
Get on
So
it.
good. Oh, good. Get on it. That's the mantra going forward today.
Yeah, get on it. It's 2024. Why not? And today's the first day of the rest of your life, right?
Mhm.
So, hey, Dyke Drummond here at the home of the Happy MD in beautiful Seattle, Washington with Robyn Tiger MD, StressFreeMD.net.
Net.
Happy New Year, everybody. Till I see you on the next podcast, keep breathing and have a great rest of your day.